Hello, nerdy neighbors. Welcome back to the Nerdy Neighborhood, and welcome back to your Friendly Neighborhood comic show. I'm your host, Lauren, your Friendly Neighborhood Bi, and here with me today is another great indie creator who also does a lot of the interviewing and helping people get set up for interviews. This guy's amazing. He does so many things, y'all. You don't even know how helpful this guy is to the community. But this is Jeff Haas. Did I say that right? Is it 2 A's there?
It sounds right. Good job.
Let's go. I got one right for once. How are you today?
I'm doing very well. Glad to be on the show finally.
Yeah, I know we talk all the time because you are so helpful at setting up other creators for interviews and helping get their content and their Kickstarters publicized. So when you were like, hey, I'm doing my own book, I was like, yes, please, come on.
Well, like I said, I'm glad to do it. It's been a fun run. A lot of people who I only know through emails, I'm getting to see in person finally. So I'm like, oh, yeah. Wow, look, we're actual people. They just weren't bots. That's fantastic.
Right? Oh, especially, and I feel like especially in any nerdy community, it's always like mind-blowing when somebody's actually real. It's not just like a robot. You're like, it's Star Trek, right? This is a robot that I'm just thinking is happening here. Well, thank you so much again for coming on. So great to have you. You have a comic right now on Kickstarter called The End of All Terminus. And number one, that sounds like some Terminator or alien shit right off the bat. What is the quickest pitch you can give about what this story is?
All right, so basically, the last 7 sentient species in the universe must escape from the borders of our universe before the universe is torn apart. Aboard the ship Terminus.
That's the Terminus. Terrifying in every single way, especially when you're stuck with other species that probably don't get along and everybody has their own point of view, which is great in terms of hearing other perspectives, but terrible in terms of we're all going to die if we don't get along, you guys.
That are worthy of survival on some level, but they do need each other. If for no other reason, they need the ship to get to where they're going. The ship was built on Earth with the help of some of these other aliens, so they do need each other. But if the other species are to die off, they'd be totally okay with it. And the way I tend to discuss it as well is that the body count's pretty big. We got 250,000 individuals on the ship. We're going to have 10 to 12 by the time it's over. So everyone else dies.
Well, at least you're honest and upfront. And it's still terrifying because we have no clue who it's going to be every single time.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be an element of mystery who's going to survive. There's actually a little bit of mystery for me who's going to survive, because I must say, I know a few who are definitely doing it, but I'm leaving a door open for characters to kind of make their way to the end a little bit in how they're written. Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense. When we were talking before we started recording, I really wanted to compliment how this. I was expecting something different in terms of a lot of comics or books or media I see right now in terms of end of the universe or an apocalypse or something happening. They're very self-survival books where it's focused on this one person or these two people and that's it. And this very much feels different in that it's more of a political drama. You got this overall thriller with these group of people. And so it's really unique compared to a lot of the other stuff that's coming out right now, which is really nice because, you mentioned it earlier, but it's very Star Trek themed. I even think it has the Star Wars Andor feels for people to like that show. It just instantly grips you with their narration too. How did you decide who was going to narrate? Because you have all these possible species and all these characters that could have been the narrators. How did you decide which perspective to take it from?
Basically, it was kind of almost like working backwards. The concept started first. Almost from the point of view of, and then, actually the ending came right after the concept. Then I started working back on who's going to be in charge, who's the main one. And then President Lamar, the female in the image, started popping up as being a concept. And the more I wrote her, the more I thought to myself, she is your main character, she is the narrator, and she may have the best perspective of all of them. It would have been a little weird to have a perspective be one of the aliens, so that was cut out. So it was going to be a human. The question was which one, and she made most logical sense. And the more I wrote her, the more I thought she became one of the more interesting characters.
Yeah, I would agree. Because I only read the 10-page preview of it, and yet I still felt very connected to her and how she thinks. I think you do a great job writing her more nuance and less of a black and white perspective, and understanding the crazy situation she's in, the gray areas, while still having her, kind of her strong thoughts about hey, she wants to appear strong. She doesn't want people to walk all over her, but she's also in this situation where now they're literally running away from basically time itself, trying to escape the universe. Like, how do you do that and just say no to everything else people want to do? You really can't do that when others are involved.
Right, and the interesting thing with her character, and it kind of developed as I started writing the character. I mean, her character got developed, I would say, within the first 5 pages of the stories when I kind of figured out who she was going to be before, which was different than the original concept of her, was that she was put in her position because of a perceived weakness of her. They thought that she was young because she was female. A lot of these aliens who are very patriarchic in their setup was that she'd be easy to either scare into doing what you wanted, manipulate because she was too young and naive, or just basically manipulate on some level. And she kind of knows that because she's definitely not stupid. She's insightful, she's smart, she knows what's going on, but she is still also, like I say, young, and she is trying to realize that she needs to take control of the situation. She needs to prove that she isn't someone who can be walked on, and that she is strong, that she is a fitting commander. But all the other aliens put her in that position because, as a consensus choice, they all felt that you could put someone in charge who was weak enough that they could use their power, their fear, manipulation, whatever, to make her do what they wanted her to do. So that's kind of the conflict of what they thought she would be and what she knows she has to be. And so that's where her conflict of who she's going to become plays out.
Yeah, and one thing I love, slight spoiler here, it's in the 10-page preview, but when she walks in after all the aliens are kind of arguing back and forth and bickering about food, things like that, the second she comes in and she's like, what's today's crisis? Some of them are like, finally, order's going to come because now she's here. So
right.
She still has earned their respect more than I think she realized, at the beginning of this, book, which I think is interesting for a character as well. She still thinks she has so far to go, and maybe she does have a ways to go to gain a certain level of respect, but she's already come further than she realizes.
She has right now she's showing herself to be a good ambassador to the aliens, but now she needs to go from being a good ambassador that someone they all feel they can will listen to becoming a good leader. And there's something different there. A consensus individual will be listened to because she can get things done, but now she needs to become a leader who can actually wield authority, which is where she's going to be coming in.
Yeah, 100%. And I did want to mention the rest of the team you have on this book. BH Ship, who does the art and the letters by Tom Tochioka, if I didn't butcher that. They both do a fantastic job, and I further wanted to compliment Ship's art because a lot of people get turned off by black and white stuff. I was not turned off at all because the textures and Ship's lines and art, I mean, they look so real. Like this alien on the left here, I know it's not super close, but you can still see how textured and detailed that is. So it's almost like my brain can fill in the colors it wants to itself.
Right. I think he did a brilliant job. And there was some question early on whether or not we're going to go black or white or color. Black and white won, more or less, because it's cheaper than color. I mean,
right.
To be honest. But, as he was doing it, though, I was looking, I was going, it does work. I mean, the black and white works. The gray tones he does is fantastic. I'm very lucky for him to get on the project. Though if there is if we do hit $3,000, we're going to do a colored version. But
nice.
But we're not there yet. So right now we're sticking with black and white gray tone.
And so we got to get there to get the color, you guys. So if you want the color, which I think would still be really cool to have as a comparison, then you guys got to go back this.
Yes.
It's not going to get there without you guys putting money behind it too. I think I really love Ship's art, and Tochioka's letters are fantastic too. I love how they differentiate between the aliens, how they speak in terms of the colors, the shape of the bubbles. They do such a great job with that. How'd you, get this creative team together? Did you guys just meet up on Reddit or something? I hear all kinds of stories of how creators meet.
Like I said, I must admit, I wish I could remember the exact details of it. All I remember is because I do my publicist job and because I do the podcast, I'm in a lot of groups for comics, especially indie comics. I'm in, I think, 40 or 50 indie comic book groups. And somewhere on one of them, I just kept seeing this art getting posted. I thought, well, that looks pretty cool. And I had this idea before that, and I was just going to sit on it until one day when I had this magic amount of money to actually do it. And then I saw the art, and I just, out of curiosity, I was like, I wonder how much it costs to have someone like this do my book. So I sent out a message like, hey, thinking to be like, well, it's this one. Like, oh, well, that's good to talk to you. Appreciate it. Keep in touch. And he sent me the number. I was like, oh, that's reasonable. And then I thought about it. I was like, I can do this. This is possible. I can afford this. And then we talked about it. I gave him the idea, and he's like, I love sci-fi. I was like, oh, shit, well, you're in for a treat. And then he knew Todd Toshioka, and he connected me with him. He's like, hey, and Todd was reasonable as well. He's done a lot of work for Image, for lettering. And then it just kind of started happening. And the more it started happening, the snowball started going down the mountain, as it were, and building. I was like, holy crap, this is going to happen. And it's cool to look at the finished pages.
Yeah, it's always, I feel that very much in terms of, you're like, this is a cool idea. Maybe cool if I did it. But, we'll worry about it later. And then one day it just gets real. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm going to take this seriously now. Like, I'm actually going to do something about this. Like,
I actually was writing a one-shot comic book. It was a Old West ghost story. And I was like, this is going to be the story I'm going to write. It's going to, it's one shot. And I started writing, I think it was like 10 pages in, struggling with it just a little bit. And this idea kept pounding in my brain. Like, it was like literally a punch in my skull over and over again. This. And then after talking to Brad, I was like, it's this. And the other one got scrapped, and I kind of buried it somewhere, and this became my thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's so cool how things just, one day they start clicking, I think, creatively, but the wait to when something starts clicking is absolute agony sometimes, because that wait can be days, it can be weeks, it's months, years, like, we just never know.
Yeah, and that's I think the life of a writer. The writer, you don't necessarily know on any given day what story grabs your brain, and when it does, sometimes it really is. It's like getting a lasso, like something like wrapped on you. It's in you. You can't shake it. The characters start talking to you in your head a little bit, not in a weird schizo way, but in a real character way. And as you go ahead with it, it just does its thing. And the story grabbed me, and as the story started, the plot line started just building in my head just randomly as I was doing things. I was like, all right, it's this one, and it became this one.
Yeah. So the end of all Terminus, is this, because it's not numbered, so is this a one shot? Is this something you're looking to continue if it becomes successful?
It's a long form miniseries. Especially to describe, I don't have an exact issue count because a lot will be dependent on the success of these issues. If the first issue catches and the second one catches and the third one catches, I'm finding that people are loving it. I can tell the entire story I want, which will be a little bit longer. If I'm struggling, and I find, I'm not holding on to readers or not interested, I can wrap it up basically at any point I really need to. But I'm hoping for a longer form miniseries.
Nice. So like 3 to 4 issues, it sounds like?
More than that.
Ooh, even better. So like the 6 to 8 or the 8 to 12?
I'm thinking Y the Last Man size.
Nice. That's awesome. Well, we definitely have to get you there because we don't want you to think that we don't want this, or at least I don't. Because I really think, especially on this landscape, there's such a need for more books like this that delve into sci-fi with the political drama stuff. And of course the adventure elements. I really like that we're kind of seeing more of those come back in media. So yeah, I'm just super excited about it. These pages here, kind of where they're going back and forth, and then where they kind of corner each other, politically, for lack of a better word to put it. How did you come up with the standpoint of each species?
Well, each species kind of used an idea. They're definitely a message or something I'm trying to say about people. Each species has a, it's not generous, not the right word, but a through line of a concept of what I would consider humanity. That's Thraxus on the right of the Gadakians. They're a warrior race. If you love Star Trek, you can say they're Klingons, like little cat Klingon type people. But they're a very patriarchal warrior race, and that's kind of where I start off with the through on who they would be. The one in the center, that's Alpha. He's a Zorakian. They are a clone species that are basically one individual who gets cloned hundreds and hundreds of times. So they're all basically the same, at least to start with. They basically all exist in a petri dish. So there's 2 on the ship because there's 2 that need to protect the species, as it were. And when they get to a planet or whatever's outside the universe, they would then manufacture the rest of their species. So that's kind of where they came from. So they're a very arrogant species because they viewed themselves as perfect. That's the only reason you would continue cloning yourself. You are you are at the moment of perfection. So there only is you. So that's kind of where they start off as a concept. And then there's others. The Raelians are kind of like space ants, as it were. So they're very much a patient, longer-lived species. They're basically, the view of them is more of a, because of the length of their lives, perspective. They had the longest perspective. Everyone else is kind of a children for them. So their point of view is like I said, is perspective. The Link is a collective society, all machines. So once again, a view from humanity, the idea of a collective society, a collective of a hive mind. That's kind of where I kind of brought their concepts are on. The Paragon, I can't really talk about too much because who they really are gets revealed much later. Ooh. But they are they're in the series. You don't really notice them much in the first arcs because that's the way they are. They're not so species. They're very introverted. They're quiet. They are very unassuming. But we find there's a reason for that, but that's also the reason why you don't see much of them because that's the way they want it.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. The word Paragon, I've seen kind of more in media lately. It's becoming such a it was already a strong term, but it's becoming a more widely used strong term. So I'm very excited to hear who or what this Paragon really is, because it's got to be good. It's got to be something really big.
They're going to be very interesting characters, but at the moment, I can't give away too much without giving away what they prove to themselves, what they prove to be as the story goes on. But there's, like I said, the reason why they're not really well noticed in these pages, but that's part of the storyline. And then there's the Acolytes of Devoe, which is a religious-based society. They're almost like a cultish, a society that views themselves as, because they are a believer in the god Devoe, which is not surprising for anyone who knows the story Waiting for Godot. It's Devoe, Godot, get it? That because their god has selected them for survival, so their entire existence, their entire species is directed towards the point that they believe they are chosen by God to survive. And that's kind of their standpoint.
Yeah. I really like, as you mentioned earlier, how all these kind of represent something you're trying to, kind of comment on about humans and different kinds of people. I think it already in here, just the little specs I saw in the first 10 pages, you do such a great job delivering on all those things. Because it's a Kickstarter, that means there are really cool rewards and really cool special things that, other, people otherwise won't be able to get. And you have this cover here. Let me zoom out so people can see the whole thing. But this is absolutely gorgeous. Who does this cover?
That's Raymond Lee. That's Raymond with a U. Raymund. Lee. He is phenomenal. He's someone who, once again, I bumped into through social media, and he did a post like, I do these types of covers, and he showed the price. I was like, that's low. Okay, I'm gonna do this. I can afford this. Is something else I can afford. And he showed me the cover, and I was like, holy shit. I'm saying, like, sometimes I see a cover, I'm thinking to myself, all right, that's cool, I like it. Then I saw this, I was like, my God, that is way better than I imagined. That has suddenly become like the image that's like grabbed my attention now, and it is gorgeous. It's not just how cool I think he does with Thraxus, which is the guy on the cover, but the coloring in the background is freaking gorgeous.
It is. I completely agree. You've got this really detailed character. You've also got this really well done background. And I think you're completely right to note that, because there are a lot of artists I see that they're really good at one or the other. It's very hard to find artists that really are strong in both those suits together. And Raymond's done such a phenomenal job. This looks like very texturized version of like He-Man characters and things like that, which sounds like an insult, but I promise it's not, y'all. This is not an insult. It is a huge compliment. It's really hard to draw characters like that, make them look super realistic, badass, even kind of scary like this guy looks, and then also have that insane background behind, because they're literally running from time itself, essentially.
Yeah. And like I said, it's just gorgeous. And I think Thraxus is going to be, every comic seems to have a runaway character. Thraxus is one of those characters that the more I write him, the more I like him, and the more I like him, and I'm giving more things to, and he's kind of, his character more than almost any others has been getting deeper just by the writing of him and letting the story be what it is. And seeing him on the cover, like I'm thinking to myself, he's kind of got him. He's a kick-ass character. He's the one in the comic book that you least want to screw with.
Yeah. Oh, 1,000%. You could just tell he's. I won't do anything. Like, even if I didn't agree with his doing, I'd be like, sure, sounds great, bud. Like, you do you. I'll just be in the corner here. What other kinds of rewards do you have going on for this campaign? Because this is this is another cover. This is a variant.
Yeah. We have another variant by Dennis Valencia, which looks badass. That one is kind of a Aliens homage. That I'm not sure if I think it's on the rewards. I know it's on the rewards. I know it's in that area.
Oh, okay.
But it looks really awesome. Brad Shipp's cover. Chris Michael of Crit is doing a Crit Terminus crossover hybrid cover where my character Thraxus is going to be arm wrestling his top character.
Oh, it's so cool.
Yeah, so it's going to be kind of like a mashup, which is going to be pretty cool. We got a 3D printed ship made by Brad Shipp. So literally is doing like a 3D, it's like a 6 to 8 inch replica of the Terminus that he's making out of 3D. So that's pretty cool. We got T-shirts. We got mugs. That also Brad Shipp makes mugs. He's apparently super talented. He makes mugs as well. So you got to get a Terminus mug. So when you drink your coffee, you can be thinking about my comic book. So why not? We got a lot. We got a bunch. We got you can get all 4 variants for only $25, which isn't too shabby. A little over $6 a comic book.
Yeah, that's a hell of a deal. You won't see that on hardly any other campaigns.
Yeah, and I would tell people, if talking about a deal, the reason it was originally 3 for $25 because I didn't know Raymond Lee's cover was going to happen. Was happening, and then it was after I already posted and people backed it. I was like, oh, Raymond Lee's doing a cover too. I was like, well, the wording does say all. It is all. So it counts. You get credit for my vagueness in the original posting. So you get 4 now for $25. That's
a hell of a deal.
I mean, I'm doing my best to make it these things affordable because I know money's tight for everybody. So try to make it so you can get some cool stuff here and there. The regular floppy for Raymond Lee is $8. You can get it for $8, which is I know more than your standard comic book, but Kickstarter tends to be the normal price point for Kickstarters. 8 to 12 tends to be their window. There's like the bulk discount for if you're a comic book store, you get 10 for $50, which is better than buying 10 for $80. So there you are.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of really cool ones on here. There's a phone dock done by Brad Shipp as well. That's wooden. It's a wooden phone dock that you can kind of like a phone organizer kind of thing, which is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff for people to buy. So do it. Put Brad to work. Make him make stuff for you.
I was gonna say absolutely. And anybody that's watched this later, in case you don't remember or know, we had Crit. We talked about their Kickstarter on here in past episodes as well. So we all know that project is really cool. So I love the fact you guys are collabing. I'm super excited to see that put together. And yeah, the fact that he's like building stuff, especially for something sci-fi, like I feel like that's what we always want, like people that love Star Wars want the Millennium Falcon, people that like Star Trek want the Enterprise or whatever. Like there's always something physically that you're like, look, I have this ship thing. Yes.
And you can own the Terminus. You can play with it. You can fly it around, whatever. Maybe one day if we ever make it to the second Kickstarter, we can make the figures. You can actually play the Terminus however you want it.
Well, you're not that far from your goal,
I know,
which is fantastic. So this is recorded, obviously, a couple of days before we're going to post this. So either it's funded or the second this comes out, obviously our nerdy neighbors are going to make sure this is funded for you, Jeff, because this is so freaking cool. This is probably one of this I can't think of a single project I've talked about so far on this entire channel that is as similar, that's super similar to this. It definitely has a sci-fi elements a lot of our nerdy neighbors like. But I think especially with that political drama side and the Star Trek kind of flipping things like that, I think this has mass appeal. Especially with how big Star Trek as a franchise is getting and other things similar to it. Like they're becoming really big again after all these, years.
I'm hoping. I would like to think that people are going to enjoy it, and I hope they back it. We got some stretch goals planned in mind as well, because nothing about being an optimist. Like I said, and Kickstarters are hard. They're killers. You kind of like every day I'm like refresh.
Yeah.
But At $1,500, I'm going to give away there's magnets with that image that you see on the front. Will be magnets that you'll give away to everybody. At $2,000, I'm going to have a 4-page backup story with Raxus. Not sure who the artist will be yet. Brad is thinking, if he has the time, it's Brad. If it's not, I'll find somebody for it. It'll be a 4-page backup at $2,000. At $3,000, we're talking color. So you can have a colored or black and white version. So get me to $3,000 and make me hire a colorist. Go do
it. Let's do it. Colorists need work too, people.
Right.
They need to shine too. Absolutely. Yeah, those you guys watch this later, the Kickstarter link, in case you haven't noticed, it's in the bio below. Just click like 5 times and you're backing something amazing. Don't worry about how much money you're spending. Just click a couple times. You're going to get a cool reward either way. You know, mystery Kickstarter reward roulette. It's a ton of fun. Well, thank you again for coming on here to Jeff. It's so great to chat with you about this. Anything else you wanted to touch on about the end of all Terminus?
I just enjoy I'll do the cliche. Come for a ride. Come for the ride aboard the Terminus. Like I said, it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm trying to write something a little smarter than would be typical, but it will have its action if you like action. It will have great characterization, and it has a really cool cast. And I'll wager that most people will find someone in the cast that they can latch on to as the story moves along. Yeah,
1,000%. I couldn't agree more. I loved it. I'm going to need to back it because I haven't yet because I've been slacking this week. So don't worry, y'all. I'm going to live true to my word. I'm going to go back it right after I'm done talking with Jeff. You guys will see the tweet. So, but yeah, Jeff, tell us where we can find you. Check out your work, any future work coming out, all that great stuff.
Okay. You can find me everywhere. Unfortunately, I'm a social media whore apparently, and I'm everywhere. You can find me on Traversing the Stars podcast. You can, if you want to see me talk to people and get sick of looking at my face, that's where you go to.
So cruel to yourself.
So for that one, you can find me on Twitter under Traversing Stars. You can find the Traversing the Stars page on Facebook. You can find me on Jeff Haas Interviews on Twitter. You can find me under Facebook under just me, Jeff Haas. Not Jeff Haas, that'll be just Jeff Haas on that one. I'm on Instagram under Vector_comic books and Traversing the Stars. You can find me on Hive under Traversing Stars. You can find me on Tribal under Traversing the Stars. You can find me on Spatable under Traversing the Stars. Like I said, I hoard them all. You can find me on Mastodon. I think it's under the same thing. You can find me on Reddit. Just look, go down to wherever social media, and you'll see me probably with one or more accounts. There's like my publicist account, there's my direct comic book account, and then there's usually the Traversing the Stars has an account somewhere. So I'm there, I'm everywhere. And if you've been on the last 12 days, you've probably seen a post from me every single day. Hopefully only once, but sometimes more than once, because
Well, that's what you gotta do, especially for Kickstarter campaigns. Like, I hear it all the time. A lot of creators are like, "Yeah, I feel like I'm bothering people," and I'm like, "Please bother us." Like, that is literally your goal, and unfortunately, that is how stuff like this works to get attention. So I get it, but don't get too stuck for a bit because it is working, and we want to support your work. And honestly, half those things you said, I have no clue what they are. Like, I heard Mastodon and Hive, and then Reddit and something else, and then like everything else you said, I was like, I'm old because I don't know what that is. Like,
I wager I'm older than you, but as a publicist, there's not a penny that's out there that I don't want to grab for either myself or my clients. So I'm on every social media possible, within reason, to try. Spatable is a website-based platform, so it's not an app. It's only accessible through a website like Google or something like that. So it's called Spatable. Tribal was when the first ones after when Twitter was thought to implode that people were flocking, especially liberals were flocking to a lot. It's called Tribal. I will say though, for comic books perspective, it's more political based, less comic book interest. So it's becoming it's not as effective as you would think it is. But yeah, so I'm everywhere. I've tried to be almost everywhere just so someone can find me. And if there's one penny out there, I'm trying to grab it.
Amen. I feel like we all need that to like be on a t-shirt and like bumper stickers on our
Right.
cars. Like just grab any penny you can, folks. We all
Right.
need the pennies we can get. Well, thank you again for being on here, Jeff. It is so great to chat with you and support, obviously your clients, but of course your work directly. Those of you guys watching, be sure I'll plug all his social media links below. So whichever one you're on, whatever penny you have to give, it's available. That's the great news. So
Yes.
thank you all for that. Be sure to back the Kickstarter, of course. I'm looking at it now. Like he said, the prices are really affordable, which is really great. You can get a digital copy for $2. So if you're really, really tight on money, but you still want support, get a digital copy for $2. It's completely worth it. Just get like half a less of a cup of Starbucks one week. That's all you gotta do. Like just half less. Get a grande instead of a venti. Okay, y'all. I know we need the energy, but just cut back a little for 1 week. And otherwise, please, go ahead, like, share, subscribe this video and the channel, and obviously all of Jeff's work. Just super cheesy stuff, but helps all of us grow. And otherwise, we will see you guys next time in the nerdy neighborhood.